Yeah, so one of the things I like to talk about is folks that just get it. I think some of the things we talked about, trust, empathy, honesty, all those fundamental things are kind of table stakes for leaders. But I like to say people that get it. It's somebody that can read a room, somebody that can know when to push, when to hold back, somebody that can persuade, somebody that can gather consensus, those sorts of things. So I really like to look for that. It's just people that kind of get a sense of the situation and you feel like can really be a dynamic leader in that regard.
It takes something a little more to lead with impact. I'm Lisa Nichols, author of Something Extra, and this podcast was inspired by our daughter Allie, whose additional chromosome has shaped how I see people in leadership. Each episode features conversations with inspiring leaders from around the world about what truly defines how they lead and serve others. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please consider leaving a 5-star review. It helps more people discover the show. And if you'd like to go deeper, my book, Something Extra, is available on Amazon and through other major book retailers. Today, we welcome Ryan Schlimpert, Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer at Drury Hotels. A decorated technology leader, Ryan has spent his career evolving from a hands-on technologist into a strategic executive, renowned for modernizing corporate infrastructure and championing human-centric AI. Recognized as a St. Louis CIO of the Year finalist, he brings a unique perspective on bridging the gap between cutting-edge technology and everyday human experiences. Well, Ryan Schlimpert, welcome to the Something Extra podcast. I am so delighted that we can make this work today. Thank you for making the time.
Absolutely. Happy to be here and really excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, we're going to have fun. I told you, it's going to be fun. So you and I know each other through the IT community in St. Louis.
And then some mutual connections here and there as well, right?
Several mutual connections. Yes, that is correct. And just lots of different groups and things like that. And then Technology Partners is fortunate to be doing some work with you guys and love to be partnering with a great company like Drury.
Likewise, some of the things that we've looked at vendors and different partners, we're big on culture here at Drury. And so knowing you a little bit and seeing how you hold yourself and how your company operates gave us a lot of confidence moving forward. It's been great so far.
It has. It sure has. Well, I want to go back. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I know that you grew up in Poplar Bluff,
I
Missouri.
did.
Some of our listeners may not know where Poplar Bluff is.
Yeah,
But
yeah. So Southeast Missouri, there's the joke that if you cut off the boot heel, then it would make the IQ of both states higher. So I get some funny looks sometimes when I say I'm from Poplar Bluff, but great small town. Grew up there all the way through high school and have a lot of great memories from there.
I grew up in a small town too, Ryan. And someday when I get some margin, I've always thought it'd be so fun to do like a little study. I know so many great leaders that have come from small towns. There is something really special. I don't know about you, but when I was a teenager, I couldn't get away with anything because my parents knew everybody.
Oh, I can go on and on about that because not only was it a small town, parents in church all the way through knew everybody there. And then also, my mom was a third grade teacher at my elementary school. My dad was the principal at my junior high. So I had no hope.
You could get away with nothing. They knew everything. That's awesome. And I know that you went to college at Westminster in Fulton, Missouri. The claim to fame for Westminster, I think, is like Winston Churchill, right?
Yep, the Iron Curtain speech was done there. There's a great museum there. There's a piece of the Berlin Wall. It's a statue where they've sculpted out, and it's called Breakthrough. So a lot of great history there. But the old gym that Churchill gave his speech in is still the gym that they play basketball in, and I played basketball in.
That is so cool. Well, I've actually had the pleasure of visiting that museum, and I would encourage any of our listeners that are around that area go. I mean, it is a special place for sure.
It's really well done.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I agree. I agree. Well, I know that you got an MIS in computer science and then you went on to WashU and got a master's from WashU. You were also a big time athlete, both in high school and college, right?
Big time is subjective, I guess, but I wouldn't go that far. But yeah, I played basketball and football and golf in high school, and then I had 2 plates and 10 screws in my arm from high school football. So decided I didn't need any more hardware and played basketball in college at Westminster. So
Oh my goodness. Wow. My husband and I were just, Greg and I were just talking about this last night because our grandson is really into competitive soccer. And he's thinking he might want to pick up wrestling or some of those others. And I'll never forget, Ryan, talking to Kyle McClellan. I don't know if you know that name, but he was a Cardinals pitcher.
yep,
And he was kind of like you. He played 3 sports in high school. And one day we were talking to him, and he said, I really think playing multiple sports made me a better athlete overall. And sometimes now in today's world, it's kind of like it's hard to play multiple sports, right?
absolutely. And we could have a whole podcast on this subject. My wife and I coach our son's baseball team together. I've coached his flag football, I've coached his basketball. He's played multiple different sports, and we've really encouraged that. And with our baseball team, it's a select team, and we've got some talented kids on it, but we've really tried to keep it open to where people can play
Mm,
multiple sports. And we've seen a lot of kids had to leave other teams because they weren't allowed to play multiple sports. So that's kid sports is getting really intense these days, but we've tried to walk that line of giving the
yeah.
kids the opportunity to really grow their skills and invest in it, but also not go too crazy with it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, you've just had an incredible career. I mean, I think you started, Ryan, as a software engineer,
Correct.
right?
Correct. Yeah, right. I went to Westminster and wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I knew I was good at math. I kind of was this good at computers a little bit, but didn't really know what that meant. And so just kind of did the core curriculum the first year or so, and then that really started to understand what that MIS degree meant. It was a mix between business and IT, and I was like, I think that could work out pretty well. And so got into that, and then I did an internship at a small software company here in St. Louis, and just really enjoyed that solving problems. And it's almost like putting together puzzles all day, being a developer. So I
Mhm.
really enjoyed that, and that's how I got started.
Yeah, and now you're a CIO. You had a good stint, I believe, too, at Mastercard, right? Which is another one of our
Correct.
wonderful esteemed clients. That's a great place too. But now you're at Drury as a CIO. Let me ask you this: when you were writing code way back then, Ryan, as a software engineer, did you ever dream that you would be a CIO?
Not really. Obviously, just coming out of high school or coming out of college, you're just kind of focused on the role. But over the years, as I kind of progressed and was getting more responsibilities and just being more embedded in the decision making and the team and how all that worked, I just started to realize more and more like I really like to have more influence and be able to shape the team and shape the budgets and shape the decisions. And that's where at MasterCard I made the decision to go into management. And it was really interesting. I went into management with a team of about 5, and we were doing workflow automation for this one division. And then they moved us in enterprise architecture, and we went from 5 to 75 in the course of a couple years really. And so my career progressed within that. So I decided to go into management, and before you know it, I was leading a team. And so I really changed dramatically just there in a couple years, but I've really enjoyed that ability to be in technology and influence it still and
Mhm.
be kind of a techie to some degree, but also have that business and really that harmony between business and IT is where the
Yes.
magic happens. And so that's what, as a CIO, you can really shape that.
Yeah, we say that all the time. We're business people first
Hmm.
and then technologists, right? It's like how technology can move the needle for the objectives of the business. But can I just ask you a question? So I do know, like MasterCard, you got to do a lot of different things. So if there's a listener out there, and maybe they are in a role and they may be interested in something else, Ryan. I mean, did somebody come along and tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, you should try this? Or did you have the propensity to go, no, I raised my hand, I want to do that? I mean, give some advice to that person out there that's like, yeah, I think I might want to be in leadership. What would you tell them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm not the traditional. I'm not like had a bunch of mentors necessarily that influenced it significantly, or I didn't have a roadmap for my career. I think what I did is I just really worked hard and tried to do the right things for the right reasons. And ultimately, opportunities presented themselves, and then I stepped into it. There was uh, the biggest move that I made. There was a Mastercard's really good at high potentials and giving opportunities and talking things.
Yes.
So there was certainly support there. And as once I was a vice president over a number of different teams and I really knew that area well, they were like, let's challenge you and give you some more experience somewhere else. So I moved from being over web development and process automation and a variety of other teams to be the vice president of digital marketing technologies. So completely new business, completely new tech stack, completely new everything. And so that was a great opportunity to just challenge me in different ways. And I think those are the sorts of things people should not be afraid to step into. You know, that was a pretty big leap at the time for me, but I just had to
Yes.
trust that I could do it and figure it out.
Yes, for sure. You had said something about just doing things with excellence and doing the right thing, right? All the time and just seeing where you could bring value. I will never forget, Ryan, and you may remember her, Bhavani Amirthalingam, who was the CIO for Ameren
Yep.
for many years. And I will never forget this. I will never forget Bhavani telling me one time, she said, I never like worked on building my resume. She goes, I just worked on every place I've been bringing the maximum value.
And I feel like that's my story. You know,
Yeah.
I just worked really hard. I was respectful. I collaborated. And whenever one of my bosses moved on to a different opportunity, they tapped on my shoulder because that made sense at that time because I was there and ready for it. Later on, when I was a director, our vice president left the company, and it was like, wow, you know. But I'm looking around, and I'm like, why not me? And I was pretty inexperienced, I would
Yeah.
say, to be a vice president at that point. But um, I had worked hard and put myself in that position where they said, let's move forward with you. So I think that's exactly how my career's worked out. So I just feel like if you put yourself in good positions, you work really hard, then doors can open for you.
Yeah. That's such great advice. Such great advice. Um, you know, was there a specific time, Ryan? Because leadership is really about people. I mean, was there a specific time that you can think where you're like, "Oh, this is really it's moving more about people." And you already kind of said it. You wanted to influence. Well, you don't influence technology, you influence people to
Yeah.
adopt technology. Was there a particular time where you realized that it was really more about people? And what did you do to like level up, I guess, in terms of being able to be a better leader of people?
Yeah, so two kind of things that come to mind. Number one, with all the process automation work we did, it was so important for change management. So I got
Mhm.
to where I was always saying it's people, process, dot, 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 technology. Because we go into meetings so much and they're like, we want to automate this and do it this way. And it's like, let's go back to the start here and really map this out. So that really educated me. And then one of the other things is with that team that I kind of grew up on, and we grew up from 5 to 75, and I went from being a developer to vice president. You
Yes.
know, I could jump in and try to fix things myself because I knew everything from the code to the testing to the methodology, everything. My boss at the time kept throwing additional teams at me basically to just max me out so I couldn't go into the weeds. And that's where I really realized, like, I can't solve problems myself. I have to have a team and enable them, equip them, support them. And that's how I'm going to be successful at this level. And that was really it's a very difficult experience. I had multiple different teams and I felt stretched. And then one of my peers went on maternity leave and I got her team. And I mean, I was just burning the candle at both ends. And that was one of those moments where I just learned I can do more than I think I can.
Mm-hmm.
And I really pushed myself and made it through that. And it really equipped me going forward to know how to delegate, empower, equip, and support versus just figuring it all out on my own.
Oh, that is so good. That is so good. And I think a lot of people, Ryan, fall in that trap of doing it yourself. But really, you got to work through people because you're only going to go as far as your capacity.
Right.
And we've got limited capacity, whether we believe we do or not, right? So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I figured that out during that stretch. I was like, I'm going to need to take a mental break here.
Yes, for
Regroup.
sure. Well, okay, you've already talked about change management and the business process, transformation that you were going through. You know, I mean, how do you think that you really build trust with the teams during this time of significant change? And I would say we're going through significant change. That is one thing about technology, right? It's going to change. But how do you build trust during those times? Because I just know that sometimes I really do believe that the human element is even more important in seasons of change, right? With AI and everything, because people need time to kind of catch up. There needs to be more empathy, all those things.
Yeah, that's a deep question. A lot of ways we could go with that one.
Yes.
Trust is such an important thing and such a foundational thing. But the thing that comes to mind for me is we've been very intentional about how we build trust within the team and how we provide avenues for people to communicate and hear it from my mouth at the right time. So, we'll have town halls to be able to just get some of that corporate information. How's the company doing? What are we
Mm-hmm.
focused on? That information out. But then I'll have like leadership meetings with departments. So myself, my directors, the managers, and really talking about from a leadership perspective. And then we'll have meetings with the individual teams to really provide just that time as a small group to talk about what are we up to? What do you want me hearing? What questions do you have for me in a
Mm-hmm.
more intimate setting? And then also giving them an avenue to share some of the things they're up to make sure they see all the great work they're doing. And how you hold yourself, how you support, how you talk through those sorts of things, I think can help build trust. And ultimately, I just think people can see through anything that's fake at the end of the day.
Oh,
So if you're pressing or you're trying to be somebody you're not, then I think people get that and sense it. And so just being yourself and doing all those things I mentioned, I think can really help.
I agree. You just reminded me, and I love this. And you said, don't like try to impress or, be something that you're not, because people can see right through that. So transparency, honesty, integrity, all those things are really important. But Ryan, you just reminded me, and John Maxwell. I mean, obviously, you can see I love to read,
Yeah.
but I think I've read like probably, I don't know, at least 80% of his books. But I'll never forget him. I heard him speak last year, and he said, if you really want to impress people, tell them about all your successes. But if you want to impact them, tell them about where you've made mistakes.
Yeah.
And I
That's a
mean,
good
I've
one.
really come to believe vulnerability is really important. I think it creates psychological safety for your team. I mean, how have you seen that to be the case as well, and being vulnerable with them and saying, "Hey, I messed up here, or I don't know the answer to this, by the way."
Yes, and I love to solve problems. I love to help, and so it's easy
Yes.
to have that tendency to always have an answer. And but I just got out of a meeting this morning where it's a fairly big organizational discussion that we're talking about moving forward. And I just admitted, with all the data I have at this time, I think this is the right step.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? It may not be. And if we get into it and we don't find the right people, or it doesn't work out the way we're thinking, we'll pivot. But I just think little things like that, to say, like, I'm not just coming in here telling you I'm 100% everything's figured out and I know all the answers.
Right.
And so I think those subtle things can go a long way, to your point.
Yeah, I agree. And that's culture. It's
Yeah.
built one thing at a time like that, right? And I know you've built a tremendous culture there in the IT organization at Drury, and Drury itself has a tremendous. Yeah, for our listeners, I think everybody knows what Drury, but Drury is a wonderful hospitality hotel, privately owned chain. What I remember about Drury, I think this is maybe still the case, Ryan. Tell me if it's not, you get a free breakfast.
Absolutely. Free breakfast is a big part of our value prop. But also at 5:30, we have 5:30 kickback, where we give away a ton of food. You could basically make it a meal if you want to, and we give 3 free drinks away. And so people love that. It's going back to the youth sports. We do great with that, because a family of 4 can go stay at our hotels. They can have
Yes.
free breakfast, free dinner if they want. And between that, our plus one service with a great friendly team, and our product is always clean, well maintained. We do really well, and excited to share. We just announced today that we won our 20th JD Power Award, and we were just recently named 6th on the list for America's companies best for value. And that was 6th. It wasn't a hospitality ranking. It wasn't a small business, mid-sized business ranking. It was across the board. We were between like Costco and Toyota, I think. So
That's
really excited for
amazing.
that one. Pretty cool.
Wow, congratulations. That is terrific. Well, for our listeners who have not stayed at a Drury, please, please, the next time you're traveling, stay at a Drury. They do great. And when I say a free breakfast, we're not talking muffins. We're not talking
Right.
continental breakfast. We're talking the real McCoy. So I love that. Well, I tell you, I'll ask you one more question, then we're going to take a quick break, Ryan. But I mean, you've obviously hired a lot of people, right, over the years. What characteristics really separate high performing team members, leaders from just average ones in your mind?
Yeah, so one of the things I like to talk about is folks that just get it. I think some of the things we talked about, trust, empathy, honesty, all those fundamental things are kind of table stakes for leaders. But I like to say people that get it. It's somebody that can read a room, somebody that can know when to push, when to hold back, somebody that can persuade, somebody that can gather consensus, those sorts of things. So I really like to look for that. It's just people that kind of get a sense of the situation, and you feel like can really be a dynamic leader in that regard.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, we're going to take a quick break, everyone. Then we'll be right back with Ryan Schlimpert on the Something Extra podcast.
In business, the tendency is to seek out partners who are bigger, faster, stronger. When it comes to IT, you should be looking for smarter, faster, better. That's just what you'll find with the talented technologists at Technology Partners. Our experts develop custom solutions to tackle your most complex challenges, all to simplify your processes in the smartest, most efficient way possible. The time to be swift and nimble starts now. Go to technologypartners.net/solutions and see what's possible.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Something Extra podcast with Ryan Schlimpert. So, Ryan, in every room I'm in with technologists anymore, and even non-technologists, AI is the big buzzword, and it's changing everything. I mean, it truly is just changing the way, but I know that you take a very human-centric approach to AI. Can you tell me a little bit about what you believe about AI, how you're doing that, the human-centric approach, and what kinds of things are exciting you about AI?
Sure, this is another big one, right?
It is.
But certainly exciting. I think, generally speaking, I've been saying for a long time, like, this is real. This is not a fad. So for a number of years, we've been talking about with the board, with our strategic planning, with our leaders, about how should we be preparing for this. What should we be doing to equip our teams for this? A number of things along those lines. We've been looking at it from a guest perspective and a revenue perspective, but also just that internal efficiency and kind of AI for your personal role. So a lot of different things we're excited about. We just launched our Chat GPT app here recently, and that's exciting because hospitality is changing big time.
It is.
A lot of our guests find us through Google or go to online travel agents or come directly to our website. But now you've got this new layer of AI that people are chatting with to plan their travel. And so we really want to be at the forefront of that because it's so critical of how people find us. We're having to pay commissions to third parties when they go through OTAs and stuff. If we can get more of that direct, it'll be huge. So we've got this exposed and MCP servers and all that fun to support that. So that was a big step for us. But in general, I think philosophy wise, I like to say automate everything that is not guest facing, right? So any of these little tasky things that we can automate, we've been always focused on that, but now AI is a new tool in your toolkit to do that in different ways. And so continuing to focus on that. And that's where the human-centric side, our plus one service, our Drury team is so great. We don't want to automate. And I think people get focused on putting a kiosk out to save labor at the front desk or putting a chatbot out to, make it a whiz bang thing on the website, but then it leads to friction or disappointment. And we want to automate things that are tasky things to free up our team to spend more time with our guests. And that's where the human-centric side, I think, really enabling our team to be great at what they do is ultimately what we're trying to do. And AI is a new tool to help us do that.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I could not agree more. People want to interact sometimes with a human being. I
Yep.
mean, the human being's the one that's going to say, they can really feel, right? How you feel about them as a guest, right? So
Right.
I think that's so important. And you know that I'm friends with Horst Schulte, who
Uh-huh.
co-founded the Ritz-Carlton, and he would say, no, don't ever put a kiosk out there.
Yeah.
It's
I
not.
appreciate you sharing me that book. I read his book that you shared with me, and there's just so many good lessons in it. And what a great leader he's been. And just I love the ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen, and that mindset and that tone that he set from the top all the way through of excellence.
Absolutely.
It's no
Yeah.
wonder they've been such a leader in the industry.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. If you haven't, I think it's Excellence Wins, right? Horst Schulte, it's a Ritz-Carlton book. Very, very good. But I'm with you on that. And when I think about that, we are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. It just elevates the dignity of the human being, right? And it was really how they feel. But I know Drury's doing the same thing. So, Ryan, kudos to you guys and congratulations on all those awards. How do you think, okay, so Ryan, this is a big question because there may be people that are listening that still think maybe it's some hype. But I heard you say it's not going away. This is not a fad. We always say it's not going to replace the human being. You're always going to need that human being, but human beings need to learn how to leverage it.
Absolutely. And, I like to say, we don't know what the future is going to hold. Some of this stuff
Yes.
is very novel technologies and how it's going to impact us years down the road. It's like, I'm not predicting that, but I
Hmm.
know here in the now, we have more things that we could possibly do that we'd love to get to that we can't. And so if we can use technology to move faster and get more things done and free up our team, like I said, to be great at what they do through serving our guests and our team, we want to do that. And so that's kind of the mindset we're taking at this point.
Right. Well, what about that person, that listener out there that thinks it's still like a lot of hype? I mean, how could organizations, what are little steps that they can do to kind of start, being ready to enable the organization to take on some projects, that are influenced by AI?
Sure. I mean, and there is certainly some hype out there, and even the big model provider leaders have come out and kind of said, yeah, we kind of got this wrong. All white collar work hasn't
Right.
evaporated overnight. So there is certainly some hype out there, and I think that there's always that Gartner hype cycle, and I think we're going through a little bit of that. Um, but I think it's real, and I think in terms of what you can do, we're thinking about it, like I said, that kind of AI for you or that personal productivity side of it. There's a lot we can do to just educate teams, encourage, show and tell of what's working across the organization to get those light bulbs going off so people can say, you know what, okay, I got some use cases that could apply to me. And so we're doing a lot of things like that, and I think those subtle things are very powerful. And then, on the IT side, there's certainly a lot more we can do around envisioning how do we architect for agents, and how do we really enable our business teams to get at our data in even better ways than we have been able to in the past. Instead of a
Hmm.
Power BI dashboard, can they just chat with our data and really drive to the deeper insights? I always say that from a data analytics perspective, that without the insights, our business teams are operating in the dark in
Right.
historical gut feel and just your experience. And so you're kind of wandering around in the dark, and you do okay. But as you get them more data, you turn up that dimmer switch so you can start operating in the light of the day. And I think that's a powerful concept, and what we're continue just to try to get more and more of those insights to our business teams so that we can operate in the light of day and make great decisions and propel our
Yeah.
business forward.
That's a great way to put it. I love that. Well, I know, Ryan, that you talk about the importance of the CIO CFO relationship. You're big
Absolutely.
on that. Why is that partnership so critical?
Yeah, so just all the initiatives within the accounting and financial space around data, around financial and automation and all that. It's great to have that relationship, but more broadly, that support for the investments and the various initiatives that we need to really do to drive technology. Like
Yes.
I said, I love the concept of we're here to ultimately make our teams be great at what they do through the smart use of technology, and that partnership with our CFO is really critical to get the support and understanding of why are we doing these things, how can they really drive the business forward, what's the ROI, and so it's a very important relationship for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. You've already mentioned this like at the beginning of the podcast about like not being having to learn how to work through people, because if we are trying to do everything ourselves, then we're going to max out, right? We've got just so much capacity. And you talked about empowering your people, equipping your people. And I wanted to find out, like, when you talk about empowerment, what does that look like on a daily basis? What are the tactical things that you do to make people feel empowered?
Yeah, so one of the things that comes to mind is just I've been on teams in the past that I took over that every decision had to go up through management, and then the management team would talk to the business team and it would go back down. But you really need those teams at the grassroots level working together at a high level. So I've always encouraged to trust the team to go have those conversations. We even go so far sometimes as to have like our accounting team from supporting Workday and all that is sitting with the accounting team in that area, and so you're saying, hey, I trust you to be in there, really understanding their problems, being with them on the day to day, and being their partner. And I think that sends a
Hmm.
loud message. Other things, I've always remembered, a boss told me one time, like, if you were writing a paper or putting a presentation together and you bring it to your boss and he marks it up left and right and basically tells you to rewrite it and does all these things. Over time, if that happens every time, how much effort are you going to put really to get it right the first time versus just going and being like, letting them do it? And I find times
Wow.
like that where a testing leader might go in and test after everybody else does it and catch everything that was wrong. So that what signals it's saying I don't trust you. So you've really got to let people run and trust. And then if you stub your toe, you learn from it and correct into the future. And you got to find those times where you don't want to stub your toe and those critical moments that maybe you do need to step in, but you can't do it all the time. You've got to let people run, let them figure those things out and learn over time. And then they take that accountability and have that pride and that ownership that this is on me and I have responsibility and I'm empowered to go do this and get it right on my own.
Oh, that's so good. That is so good, Ryan. You remind me of another John Maxwell quote
Oh
because he
yeah,
says you don't lose, you don't win or lose, you win or learn. And when you make mistakes, you learn from those, but sometimes the mistakes are the things that really cause you to learn. Don't you
absolutely.
think? I mean, if you do stump your toe, I guarantee you the next time you're going to be a little bit smarter about it, right?
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
I love that. But if you have somebody that's going to come in and rescue you, I mean, why? Why work to get it right? So that is really good. Um, well, what do you okay, we've already talked about trust, so I'm not going to go there again, but there's things that can erode trust really fast. Our mutual friend Pete Hogan, Ryan, that Pete too. He told me
Mhm.
one time, he said, trust is earned in drops and lost in buckets. And I love
That's a
that
good one.
quote. What are some of the things that can really erode trust quickly that maybe our listeners need to really pay attention to and make sure you're not doing those things?
The first thing that comes to mind, I go back to those comments about being genuine and authentic. And
Mhm.
when you're doing sort of passive aggressive things, like asking probing questions that might make somebody look bad, but you're trying to appear like you're being on the up and up, I think those are things that bleed through too, and it just really undermines trust. I know that in my past, I've experienced people that you can just tell in meetings they're there to progress their own agenda,
Ooh,
and
that's a good
they're
one.
basically trying to come up with the answer that makes them look good versus the answer that's right for the organization or for the team. And I think those things undercut trust very quickly. And again, people perceive those things, even if you can't put a finger on it or call them out because they're doing it in a smooth
Mhm.
way. I think those
Yes.
sorts of things can really undercut.
That's so good. So good. Well, I know that you're coaching Jackson's. You already said that you and your wife both are coaching his baseball
Yep.
team, I guess it is. You know, um, how has coaching, like his sports and stuff, really translated into what you're doing at work? I mean,
Yeah, I think there is a lot of parallels. And,
yes.
I think that's one of the good ways as a good leader is more like a coach than a disciplinarian or than a director. Um, but it's interesting, especially with these boys. We've coached them from when they were little and now 13U. Just finding the right moments and in understanding how every team member is different. So we've got some kids that you can really give them that encouragement and get into them a little bit, and they're like, "Okay, I got it." And others that you really got to pull to the side and be like, give them a little bit of confidence boost and talk them through things.
Mhm.
So I think that individuality and understanding that everybody needs different leadership from you is a big one. And then also knowing the timing. If after a game they just got their butts kicked, it's like you come in with a big 30-minute speech about how they need to do better. It's like that's probably not landing very well. It's like
Yeah.
they're tuned out, they're disappointed.
They're
So when
already disappointed. They're already feeling
right.
badly about themselves, right?
So I think that's one of the things that as great leaders know when to push. So I always say one of the hardest thing about parenting and coaching is when to be empathetic and when to push. When to really have high expectations and demand the best out of them, and when to be understanding and give them a little room to breathe. And that is such a challenge with kids. And I think,
It
but that's
is.
the same in business as well. And there's a time to really hold your team accountable and demand excellence. But there's also times to understand that they're doing everything they can do, and you need to give them some grace.
Yeah, that's so good. And I completely agree with you on that. It is difficult. Well, what keeps you grounded outside of work, Ryan?
Oh, I would say my wife and my 13-year-old for sure. They keep me grounded. Just my parents and friends, a lot of great relationships, and people that know me from many years ago. And so I think that's easy. And growing up in a small town, to your point, like there,
Yes.
there's no reason, and I'll use a Popper Bluff term, I guess, no reason to get big for your britches or think too much of yourself.
Yeah.
And so I think the wife and son are probably the two that bring to mind because you can think something and then come home and then you're just one of them. Right?
Right, exactly. That is so funny. Um, well, let me ask you this. When you think about your legacy, Ryan Schlimpert, what do you hope people say about your leadership?
Whew, that's deep. I think I just hope people appreciate me and look at that I was there for the right reasons to drive the business and the teams and the individuals within the teams forward in a positive way, and ultimately brought people together and made great things happen. I think that's in a nutshell. I look back at my upbringing with great parents that were good people in the community and did the right things for the right reasons. And, they've celebrated 50 years of marriage a couple years ago, and it was just so cool to see that legacy. And so, kind of similar feelings going through my brain as you asked that question is just you
Yeah.
want people to look back that you did the right things for the right reasons, but did a lot of good and helped a lot of people.
I love that. That's perfect. Well, I have a little lightning round for you.
All right.
Okay. So, besides the book Something Extra, what is one book that every leader should read?
I think one of the ones that I always loved is The Good to Great, and
Oh,
the sequel to that.
classic.
I think
Yeah.
there's so many great lessons in those books that I've taken away. So I encourage those for sure.
Yes. Oh, that is, yes. If you haven't read Jim Collins' Good to Great, and he's got Built to Last, he's got several books out there, but make sure you pick that up because I totally agree with that. How about the best leadership advice that you've ever received?
Oh man. Sometimes I get the best, and it's not advice, but I've learned the most from some of the bosses that I wouldn't want to emulate.
Right.
That's what comes to mind right now. But I've
Yeah.
seen people that are just trying to get ahead. They leave a path of destruction behind them and are just pushing down walls. And I took away some things from that. Like I'm a people pleaser, so maybe I need to be more assertive with a vendor or with a partner or with the team at certain times. But man, I also learned that's not how I want to operate
No.
on the whole. So I think that's a good one. And then I think that kind of being an authentic leader, like I've talked about a few times, I've had some advice around that I think is just foundationally important.
Good, good, good. What about, do you like to travel? What's your favorite place that you've ever traveled, Ryan, that you can think of?
Oh man, we do like to travel. Been to Europe, Greece, all around Europe on a backpacking trip out of college. Been to South Africa and Costa Rica,
Oh my
and
goodness.
just went to Hawaii this year. And I was up in Canada for a fishing trip that I was telling you about.
Yes.
Best place. I did a 3-week camping trip as part of my junior and college, where we learned about the ecosystem, the people, the environment, everything for a semester, and then we traveled for 6 weeks, 3 weeks camping, and that was just such a cool because we got to go behind the scenes at the Belizean Zoo, and so that Belize trip was a really memorable one.
Oh, that is cool. Yeah, we love to travel too. I love seeing new cultures and learning from the people and just seeing the beauty of the world. It's just
It is.
really
And now
special.
with our 13-year-old being at that age where it's like he can really absorb and start to
I
appreciate
know.
things, we're trying to do more of that with him, and it's a really fun time.
It is fun. I've got a friend that was the CEO for Dayspring, and his family what their goal, their big audacious hairy vision is to visit every national park.
Wow, that's
And I
great.
think that's kind of a cool goal, but with the whole family, and he's got adult children now and everything. But I just think things like that are really, really cool. Well, what about this? What is one thing that you're still trying to improve as a leader?
I think just what's the right level of strategy and pushing things ahead versus kind of being complacent, or I guess just kind of keeping the business running to the level that everyone's happy. There's
Mm-hmm.
certain areas, AI, it's like, should we be going faster? Should we be pushing harder? Should I be asking for more resources? What's the right level for our company at this time?
Yes.
And that is such a hard thing for me. So I think finding that balance is something I still really think about. I think about constantly. I'm thinking about how do I help the team get better. I love the concept of you've got to, when you're cutting things, you've got to every now and again step back and sharpen your blade. And so
Yes.
I am always talking to the team, and they get exhausted with me, I think sometimes, but we of course want to keep the business initiatives moving forward and our business teams happy, but we've got to find ways to always sharpen our blade so that we can do more next year and we can do things faster, smarter, better.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something that I'm always just striving for, like what's the next thing that we can do to get better with our methodology, with our expectation setting with the business, with our partnership with the business, with our
Mm-hmm.
use of technology and tools. I think that's an evergreen process for sure.
Amen to that. There's always something to improve, isn't there, Ryan?
Absolutely.
Always something. Keep growing. Well, this is called Something Extra. And I would love to hear from you what you believe is the something extra that every leader needs.
Yeah, so I touched on the people that just get it already, those people that can
Mm-hmm.
really sense the friction behind the conversation, read the dynamics. So I won't touch on that one again, but the other one I think that goes hand in hand with that a lot, and it's kind of just what we talked about, that people that exhibit significant intellectual curiosity. They don't assume they have all the answers. They're constantly learning, asking questions, looking for ways to improve. And I've always had fun with this. I heard a long time ago the definition of ROI, and it's not return on investment, it's relentless ongoing improvement. And so that concept that the best leaders never arrive, they keep growing, adapting, and helping the people around them do the same. And so I really think that's something extra to make you a dynamic leader. It's that combination of people that just get it, like I talked about before, and then that ROI.
I love that. I love that. I'm so glad that you mentioned that. I'll remember that as well. Well, Ryan, this has been so much fun. I so appreciate you making the time to be on the show. And I know that you're going to help our listeners. So thank you so much for building into other people. And I believe that's what this conversation is going to do. So thank you.
Well, thank you. It was a lot of fun, and just I appreciate you and just the joy that you bring to every room that you're in, and the way that you hold yourselves, and the way that you lead tech partners. Just really admire that. And so appreciate you having me. It's an honor, and it's been fun.
It's been fun. All right. Have a great rest of the day, my friend.
All right, you too.
Something Extra with Lisa Nichols is a Technology Partners production. Copyright Technology Partners, Inc. 2019. To learn more about this week's guest, check out the show notes at tpi.co/podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, consider leaving us a review. Thank you for listening to Something Extra.